391, which is a farm and ranch grade saw, and it is a 65cc. I think that's what I read a second ago. 64 cc's. And I want to take a moment to explain a few things, because you need to understand some stuff. So this is a saw that is a modular engine, meaning that there's a whole engine bolts. You can see the bolts down in there, that the whole engine and crankcase bolts into this plastic housing, versus a 362 that is, I think we said 59 cc's. Yes, 59 cc's. And the difference in the two, we'll see here how all this is plastic and this is metal here. This is a alloy, magnesium and some other stuff, and these pieces right here actually the crankcase. So we have a crankcase that's in a unit that bolts into the plastic housing, but this is actually part of it. Now another cool thing is all the bar clamp studs are in metal on this one. We'll find this one here. It will most likely have one that will go into the block of the engine and one that is just in plastic. So at least that's where they have been. I'm not sure on this exact series, but what we're going to do today is kind of beef this thing up a little bit and put a tank guard on it. Now, I wonder if this tank guard would fit this saw as well, as it looks very similar in the handle area. It looks like it would, wouldn't it? Without a whole lot of trouble there. Pretty interesting. Now, where the bolts are, it'd be too far. But anyway, they make these tank guards, and a friend of mine ended up buying this saw right here, this 391, because couldn't get a 362. They're just very hard to get right now, and he needed a saw. So he's going to try to make this work for a while and kind of beef it up in a couple of places to make it do what it needs done. So actually that one has about the same amount of hold off as that other one, so it probably would work on the 362. But the really neat little piece here, this is just a little tank guard to keep it from getting injured on the bottom. You can see those are kind of vulnerable areas. So we're going to put that piece on. Another thing we're going to do is install some better dogs on it, or bumper spikes. So let's grab us a T-handle Torx, and we will pop this guy off here. And I'm going to do this real gently so we don't lose the whole thing in the floor. And we will pop these screws here out. We'll hold this saw so it doesn't fall. Just pop this in place. Reinsert the screws. Pretty neat little setup, because it'll hold it up onto the handle on the back. So these are really the only fasteners we have to deal with. And again, the reason he bought this saw is just couldn't get a pro grade saw in this class size. So he's planning on running it for a while and then upgrade when they're available. Now the next item of business is the bumper spikes. And again, we run into these little bitty bumper spikes. They're sharp, apparently. They'll go right through the bag. All right, so this outer clutch housing, not clutch housing, bar clamp. Let me put this right here. This outer bar clamp doesn't have provisions to bolt into, so we're not going to be able to install this outer one, but we should be able to get this inner one to go into place there. Now this does have a spot for the bottom for a roller chain catch to be inserted, but it didn't come with it, so we'll leave the stock chain catch on there. Now just changing this one, it looks like we'll be able to do it without pulling the bar off of it. So let's see what we've got here. You'll be able to see in a minute just how much more aggressive the others are. And these factory ones, I guess they're all right for some things, but they're not wonderful for getting into big bark trees. You can see how these screws go into plastic. Get that thing and let go. You can see what the threads look like on those. versus ones that go into metal. You can see the differences there. All right. So we're just going to take a second and match all this up, make sure that all the bolt holes align, and they do. That looks real good. And you can see, it's upside down, you can see how much more aggressive that bumper spike is, how much better it will catch. So we'll start this guy in. So this will go into place. We'll install this other one. And that should wrap up our inner bumper spike. And if we do an outer cover, then that should allow us to get the holes for the other one that we need. All right, so here we are with the rest of it, and our bar clamp does not have holes in it to put our bumper spikes in. So we're going to pop these off of it. This one does not have captured nuts either, so that'll work because it'll be compatible with this. So we're just going to ease this fella off, and you can see it doesn't have the plastic or the rubber stuff on the back as well for chip deflection, but it's plastic, and this one's again that magnesium stuff. So we're just going to set it to the side and make sure that everything else is the same here. And it looks like it is. It looks like the outer profile matches. It looks like the holes are the same. I think we'll be okay. Ease that off of there. Here's another thing I want to talk about real quick too. We have a rim. This is a spur type drive sprocket. You can see the little pieces sticking out versus a rim type drive sprocket there on the 880. So you can put these, you can put a rim type on these saws, retrofit it, but it's just something else to do. All right, so let's put the our 362, again, this came off a 362 saw. So we're going to see if this bumper spike will fit over on there, and it looks like it will. It looks like it'll bolt directly on. Let's make sure it all lines up. That looks good, and that looks perfect. That'll work great. So we'll go ahead and find us some bolts in here. A little bag of goodies. Where was that bag? Here it is. So we'll take this. We're going to need the longer bolts, I think. I hope they're long enough at that. They look like it's going to take something quite a bit of length to do the job. Yeah. So these little plastic pieces, you see this little plastic piece just pops out, and it gives you room to insert the nuts. I'll keep throwing stuff on the floor all morning. Thank you. So we will insert that guy. Here we go again. Perfect. Actually, we're going to look at this. We may need the short ones for this, because these have to stay down in behind here. We don't want them poking through and knocking those plastic guides out. Gotta be good at something. I guess my being good at things, superpowers dropping stuff. There. Alright. So I'm just going to install these again real quick just to hold those in place. Yeah. Swing this around just a tick. There we go. So that should hold those fellas where we need them to be. Now we'll figure out which length bolt we need. Go on that direction. Let's see what we need here. I'm going to let it go down and bump that. So to check it, we're letting it go down and bump that thread, and that will take up about the amount of thread. So that should be about right, or the distance of the nut. So that when the threads engage with it, it shouldn't come out the other side. So we'll just put that right there. this one right here. That one looks a little deeper. I don't know why one is longer than the other. Those that they sent. We'll see what it looks like. We may have to change that out with something else. Alright, so let's install these. This one we know is correct, so we'll go ahead and write it down. It's still trying to, I think it'll be alright. Yeah, that looked really good. That one's going to be a problem. It's not just going to be a little too long. Let's see if these other bolts are the same. We may have to use these. Yep, that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to use these guys. Give me that 8mm T-handle out of there, please. It's chrome with a black handle. Another thing I want to point out, we were talking about a minute ago, is that this is an aftermarket bar clamp, and the reason we can tell that it doesn't have the word Stihl on it. It is not cast in it like the other. You can see right here how Stihl's on this one. If you take a 362 and it has Stihl and it's just magnesium. The other thing is, whenever you see the part number on a Stihl product, you'll have your part number inside of it, but you also have the Stihl logo right with it. This one has the part number in it, but no Stihl logo anywhere. This is our chip deflector, and it has part number with Stihl right in it. I pulled this off of another saw to get a good one of those for them. So this is an aftermarket piece, but it should work fine. We're running aftermarket spike on this as well, so that's it should do fine for him. And we'll wipe the sawdust off of there. We didn't change anything behind the bar or loosen it, so junk shouldn't be behind it. Now we'll just install our bar clamp nuts. Another thing too, when you install bar clamp nuts, you always want to make sure you put them on the same way, because we don't want the threads to be pulled back and forth. If you put it on one direction one time and the other direction another, those threads will be pulled back and forth and they can weaken. So I always like to put it with the writing to the outside. Excuse me. And here we have the plain side, the side with writing. So we'll just put it to the outside. If we get in the habit of always doing that, we'll always be pulling those threads in that same direction. Now again, we want to pre-tension that bar. So we'll lift up slightly on it while we tighten it down. And again, we left the factory chain cap, the little aluminum one on there, because we didn't get the roller one that goes between the two holes. So you can see the factory chain catch. You always want to make sure you run a chain catch on there. So here we have the bumper spikes installed, and he could also put a rolling in there later if he wanted to. So it does have the option for that. But this is all set up. We've got the tank guard installed, and this saw's ready to go cut some firewood.